is a privilege today to be speaking with Andreas Deja, the director and writer of MUSHKA. Andreas, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
This is a great privilege of mine.
Oh,
It truly is. I know with your work at Disney over the years, you worked on some incredible projects. Scar and Gaston are two of my favorite animated characters. My kids always make fun of me because I love singing their songs so much, and it really is wonderful to chat with you.
oh,
I was
thanks.
well, I'm wondering for you, what is it that makes you so passionate about working in animation?
Hmm. It just goes back to my childhood. Really when I saw my first Disney film, and it was kind of late as a child. I was 11. I remember my parents didn't take me and my sisters to the movies. It wasn't their thing. So it just happened to be that I was 11 years old, and the Jungle Book came out, the first one. And it came out in Germany in '68. So I was 11, and it was like I compare it to a lightning strike. Just something, just you don't know what's coming, but it came and it just hit you. I just couldn't believe what I saw. It was just I heard the angels sing. I don't know. I just thought it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen, and I wanted to find out about this. I wanted to be a part of this when I would be older. And so that's really how it started. And then, of course, I wrote to the studio a few months later with the help of my English teacher at school, and asked questions, or a simple question, what can I do here in Germany, where I grew up? What can I do here to prepare myself for a job at Disney sometime? And they wrote back. They did, and they said, well, no, please don't send us any copies of Mickey and Pluto, because that we can teach you at the studio, but you need to become an artist first,
Mm.
and we need to see how you see the world. So go to the zoo and sketch all the animals, and do that often, and really compare the way they are built, the animals are built, and the way they move. And then they said, when you're a little older, you need to enroll in life drawing classes, because an animator has to know the human figure and how it functions and works, and all of that. And then I took that absolutely seriously, and did all that, and went to all the zoos. And I think I was 14 when I started life drawing. My parents were a little concerned, drawing nude people, and but I took that very seriously. And so it never really. It wasn't definitely, it wasn't a passing thing, where you as a kid, you're being fascinated by something, and then you get into sports or you get into other things. It stayed with me. It was like the most important thing to me. And even my high school teacher said, when I told him that I wanted to be an animator later on, he said, boy, that's going to be tough, because there's going to be competition. And he said, let me tell you that if you want to do this, animation has to be the most important thing in your life. And it really scared me, because I'd never heard it put that way. But now, as looking back to my younger self, it already had become the most important thing in my life. So it just, I was just driven, because I just loved it so much.
It shows. It shows just even on screen with MUSHKA, that your passion for it, and you can see the influence of these phenomenal, classic Disney films like Jungle Book and 101 Dalmatians, just in the styling. And I want to talk about MUSHKA, but before I do that, I know that you've been involved in all these great Disney films. What is it about Disney style that do you think has left such an impression? Because there are so many animated companies, but when we think of animation, we often first off think of the Walt Disney Corporation.
Yeah, I think, well, of course, it started with the Walt, and he was a master storyteller, and he knew how to tell a story that would connect with audiences like nobody else. So that's number one, the storytelling. Then he trained his animators to a point, training meaning like they had art schools at the studio, and they had anatomy classes, and all these classes to improve themselves as artists. These artists were capable of creating believable characters, and I think that's the word. It's not realistic; it's believable, because they're stylized Disney characters too. But that people really know that they're looking at a series of drawings, but at the same time, it also becomes a human being or a real animal that you believe is completely alive. And I think Disney did that more than other studios, because Walt Disney did. He just demanded it. He wanted to see real life on the screen through drawings, and achieved a standard that even Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston told me that we don't even think that Walt knew that this was achievable. You know, this high in terms of character animation, starting with Snow White and Pinocchio and all of those. When I started at the studio in 1980, we had that looming over our backs, you know, the old guys and their quality, and it was almost a burden. I remember, because we were just a bunch of kids from art school, and here we were asked to continue Disney animation. The old guys had just retired. Eric Larson was still teaching, but how are we going to do this? And so it can be a burden, but I try to turn that around and instead let that inspire me in terms of what they had done. And we had at Disney, well, they still have that department. It's called the Animation Research Library, where they keep all the drawings and paintings ever made in animation. They have them all the animation scenes, they're all there, you know. And so we had access to that. And I would just go down there regularly and study King Louis, or study Peter Pan, or any scene that really impressed me. And those were great learning tools to have access to that material. And then not only that, because these old guys were still around in the 80s and early 90s, or throughout the 90s pretty much. So I could talk to them, study their work, and said, okay, I found this interesting. What were you thinking? Why did you plan it this way? You know, why does Shere Khan move this way and not that way? I mean, I had a really fantastic interaction with these guys, and because I just wanted to know what they went through. And then it was completely fascinating to me for them to talk about their failures, or to even know that they thought that they had failed occasionally, and that just made them human for me, you know. So this is a long answer to your question. I know, I do apologize.
No, I love it. Any window into this world. This hand-drawn animation, I still think, is just a stunning art form. And with MUSHKA, it really comes to life. Where did you get the idea from? What was it that excited you to tell this story?
Well, after being on my own for about a year, after 30 years of spending at Disney, I knew that I wanted to create a project. Since no project was offered to me, you know, or scenes weren't given to me to animate, that situation was over. So I said, well, I'm still doing it. The wheels are still going. I still have stuff to say. I still have to express myself in drawings. So create your own. And then you ask yourself a series of questions, you know, what would be a really cool character to animate? And since I love animals, very passionate about animals, a tiger would be a wonderful creature to animate because of the stripes and the anatomy. And I had some groundwork from Lion King, some research I had done then that I could apply to MUSHKA. And then immediately the idea came to mind, a story about a little girl and a tiger, because the dynamic would be so unusual. There could be tension and adventure in all of that. And I kind of fleshed it out to a rough idea where this girl raises a tiger cub, they bond. When the tiger is almost fully grown, the girl finds out that there are bad people around them who want to kill him and sell him and make money. And so she finds out about this, and the only thing she can think of doing is taking her tiger back to the forest where she found him, and hopefully he'll be a wild tiger, and that will be that, but maybe things shouldn't go according to plan. So that was my idea. That's not a story. That doesn't have a beginning or an end. It's just an idea. So what you do in a case like that, you just reach out to people who can help you to flesh that out. So I did talk to a friend of mine who has never written a script or a screenplay for a movie, but who has written novels and poetry and does architecture and so many artistic things, has always worked for himself. And I said, well, here's my idea, see what you can do with it. So he fleshed it out, and then when I read his second or third draft, it really felt like a solid novel. It really felt like a novel. And I said, well, let's do this because it's different, it's melancholic, it has a lot of heart, and let's just do this. So then we started storyboarding. Me and a friend of mine came over from France, Mathieu, and the two of us just storyboarded the thing. And then I found just a small crew to help me to get it to the finish line, meaning animation, background painting, camera work, and all that. We were a very, very small crew, and that's the reason why it took so long.
Honestly, it's absolutely beautiful, and one of the things that certainly I noticed, about it, it's very much a love letter. You can even still see the pencil lines on there to that sort of style. And I'm wondering from you, I mean, just the challenges of animating animals, like you mentioned that before about going to the zoo and constantly making drawings. I'm just wondering, are there any particular, what sorts of challenges exist in animating, bringing someone like MUSHKA to life that may not be with average people?
Yeah, the challenge here was for me that if I would compare MUSHKA to Scar talks. So in his acting, even though he doesn't really have hands, there were some gestures where I can use his paw to sort of simulate a human hand, but it was still limiting. But he talks, so you have that human aspect about that character. But MUSHKA, of course, doesn't talk. It's a naturalistic animal, but I still wanted him to be expressive and emote things. And the first scene I animated with him, because I had a very clear vision of what is going on through that tiger's head. At that moment is where Sarah takes off. She takes him into the forest, takes off his collar, and says goodbye to him, and he doesn't want to leave. He keeps following her. And then she starts yelling at him, and get out of here now, go. And we cut to the scene where he just takes a couple steps back because he's so confused. He doesn't know what's going on. She's never yelled at him, obviously. And I knew how to portray that. I felt it. And it had to be done in a way where the tiger wouldn't talk back to her. Obviously, it had to feel like a real tiger. But real animals, big cats, all of them, they are super expressive. I mean, when they attack, they got similar things going on in a human face. The eyebrows come down in the middle, and the teeth show, and when they're afraid, the eyes are wide open. So there are some similarities. But again, with the character, a naturalistic character like MUSHKA who doesn't talk, you just have to walk that fine line. You can apply those emotions on the face, but you can't go too far with it.
I love that scene you're talking about there because there's so much communicated just in the facial expressions, like you're saying there as well, and it's just it's a beautiful film.
I want to talk about the sketchy line a little bit and why I chose that, because I grew up. I mean, Jungle Book was my first film, of course, but it seems to me that I saw the 1960s films right after, which was 101 Dalmatians, Sword in the Stone, and it was amazing of how loose they kept the artwork. When you see Cruella de Vil, those are all Mark Davis's drawings on the screen. Nobody even touched them or redrew them or made them look made the lines look thinner. I mean, those are his rough sketches, and what a joy that is when you see the artist's hand on the screen, And I just wanted to go back to that, because even during my time at Disney, we always had assistants who traced our drawings on a clean sheet of paper, and it has that nice, neat look to it. I said, no, I want to do something that comes from the artist's gut on paper on the screen with nobody meddling with the artwork, and that's why the film looks that way. And I even asked my background painter Natalie, who painted, I mean, I swear to you, 90% of all the backgrounds she painted. We're talking hundreds of backgrounds. And I said, do the same thing. Don't finish the backgrounds to the point where they all look nice and neat and treat it like a color sketch, you know. So the rough drawings would match with those almost unfinished looking backgrounds. That's exactly the style that I was looking for and got in the end.
Andreas, I have to ask you about the music. I did not know that you were working with Richard Sherman. This is, I was
crazy. It's crazy. And I'll tell you briefly how that happens. A decade ago, I lunched with Richard Sherman. I had met him through other people. We had mutual friends. So I lunched with him. He asked me what I was doing these days. I said, I have this idea for this film. And I told him the story of MUSHKA, where it was at that time. And he got kind of excited at this lunch table, and he was tapping his finger on the table. He says, maybe somebody who writes music here at this table can write some music for your film. And I just was stunned. I said, Richard, are you kidding? So he did. So he wrote this beautiful musical, this piece, which is a lullaby, which we use in an instrumental way throughout the film, through the score, and then of course as a song over the end credits. And my composer Fabrizio Mancinelli was also a friend of Richard, a young Italian composer who lives here in Los Angeles, and he was really able to use that theme whenever he could, and just add this symphonic grand score to it. You know, I mean, it's like almost John Williams meets the Sherman Brothers. I see elements of both, and now I'm so proud of our score, and I'm so glad you noticed.
Yeah, you can. I don't want to say you can tell, but when I saw, like, when I saw his name, I could hear the Richard Sherman influence, and it's just such a, I mean, written some iconic music for Disney for sure.
Yeah, the Sherman Brothers write memorable songs, you know, to the point where you can't get them out of your head, like Small World at Disneyland or the other theme parks. And he is so amused when people tell him, I hate that song. He laughs and laughs. He has a good sense of humor about it. But his song, or their songs, are memorable. And I was so looking forward to when he said he would write something. I didn't know what it was. I didn't give him any direction, what feeling the song should have. I just told him the story, and he went for it. And it turned out to be this lullaby. And it is memorable as well.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I wanted to ask you this. I know that, I mean, animation has changed a lot in the last 2-3 decades, of course. I guess it's always changing, but I was wondering, from your perspective, do you think maybe we lose anything with, I'm not saying the CGI is, I love CGI, is wonderful, but do we lose something when we've moved away from hand-drawn cells, in your mind?
Well, we gained a lot because CG can do things that 2D can't do. The degree of realism is so great. You know, they can create these worlds that look completely real. What hand-drawn animation is good at, creating worlds that are new and maybe unfamiliar and stylized, and take you to a place where you haven't been, and also so yeah, I'm like you. I'm completely impressed with like what they can do these days. Look at that water, you know, look at the mountain, and look at that camera move that goes all over the place, and it's just absolutely amazing. And of course they have good stories too. Let's not forget
Yes.
that. They're wonderful storytellers. But yet there's something to hang on to when we think about 2D animation. It shouldn't be a thing of the past, and shouldn't be replaced, because too many people still love it. Too many artists still want to do it, and audiences ask for it. I get this question all the time: when is the next Aladdin coming out, or the next Lion King? So I know that there is a real hunger for hand-drawn films, because there comes a time where you want to see the artist's hand on the screen, individual contribution. on the screen, and that's what hand-drawn animation gives you. Uh, granted, I'm an insider, but I see an Ollie Johnston hand when I see Jungle Book or a Frank Thomas hand. I know their scenes, and they're different from each other. You know, they all brought these different personal things to the screen, and then that's what hand drawn does.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I remember as a kid Disney Hollywood Studios at the time. I think they were making Mulan, and you could walk through and see people at their desks working on it. And I thought this is incredible. I was just in love with the format. MUSHKA is wonderful. The music is wonderful. The animation is gorgeous. How can people see it? I know it's touring on festivals. I think I've heard right now.
Yeah, at the moment, we're doing the festival circuit. We were in Europe a few weeks ago, and we're going back there in fall again. We're at the Palm Springs Festival this Saturday, where we show the film in competition. And so that's what you have to do when you do an independent short film. You need to do festivals. I thought I would take a year off and slowly think about my next project, and I was told very quickly, no, you got to travel and show your film. It makes complete sense because you did your film for audiences. So it's been really fun to see people's reaction. And distribution will happen later, you know, when we're done with the festival circuit. Right now we're just enjoying that phase and showing it to everybody. But people, even if they are not in a city where the film plays, we do have a website. When you Google MUSHKA the film, MUSHKA the film, it comes up, and you can see the backstory of how we made the film. There are production photos. You meet the artists, that whole thing, and then of course our trailer, our final trailer, is on YouTube, and I love the comments that people leave on the trailer, like how it made them feel, what they think about it. So if people find the trailer on YouTube, please write something.
Absolutely. Andreas, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing with the story with us and telling us about this incredible journey along the way. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Steve.
I wish you the best. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Don't worry, like you never stopped.